Hello and welcome to this exclusive edition of Globe Watch from the Cameroon Radio Television with me, Charles EBUNE. It is the largest mobile telephone network in Africa and happens to be one of the most successful businesses from Africa to the rest of the world, operating in the telecommunications sector, where it is the 8th global market in a trading corridor which she has shares of roughly $3 billion, employing at least 20,000 people globally and operating in Africa, Asia, and parts of the Middle East. So we are talking about the story of the South African telecommunications giant, MTN. How did the founding fathers help establish it as one of the most successful business empires in Africa in the world today? My guest today on Globe Watch is the Group President, Chairman, and Global CEO of the mobile telephone network, MTN. Ralph Mupita, welcome to Globe Watch.
Charles, thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation to be here and to talk a little bit about MTN. Thank you so much.
Look, 28 years ago, when South Africa transitioned into a democracy, when Nelson Mandela was elected the first democratic president and first black president of South Africa, I was a class 3 pupil in one of Cameroon's government-owned primary schools. MTN started. Quickly tell me, how did the founding fathers started this idea?
I think, as you quite rightly said, the dawn of democracy in South Africa, that was the dawn also of mobile telecommunications networks. And at that stage, the only way you could get a phone, if you remember well, was through a fixed line. You had to go to a ticky box or else have a fixed line in your home to be able to communicate. And there was a clear sense that as part of the democratic process in South Africa, there was a need to create, obviously, economic opportunities, but also to ensure that infrastructure and services were available to all the people of the country. And so 2 licenses were issued. One was issued to Vodacom, one was issued to MTN, and we started rolling out networks. And many years later, we have close on to 270 million subscribers across 20 markets who are covered by our wireless networks. That vision of democratizing communication has been also enhanced by not just democratizing communication, but also financial inclusion. We're able now to use the networks, and the distribution that we have is to get to the people that are not traditionally served well by banks because they don't have that capillarity of distribution. And we have with the agents network. So we've gone beyond telecommunication, which is about digitally including people. So we're also now talking about financial inclusion as part of our mission as MTN.
By the end of 2021, you are operating in roughly 20 countries in Africa, plus the Middle East, including sanctions hit Iran. Or like you said, you have nearly 300 million customers worldwide. The year 2001 is one of the most significant dates in the company's transformation and expansionism. Why?
Well, it's an important date because that's when MTN started operations in Cameroon. So we've been in Cameroon for all this time. It's one of the markets that we entered in very early in our journey to build what we now call a Pan-African company. So we don't see ourselves as a South African company at all. We see ourselves as a Pan-African company. Earlier on, we were in a panel interview with some of my colleagues. There's a Cameroonian, a Ghanaian, a Senegalese, South African. I'm born in Zimbabwe. So our spirit and our posture as a company is that we're a Pan-African organization. Yes, we are domiciled in South Africa, but our character and our soul is really one of a Pan-African company. So 2000, sorry?
It's equally the year you established a foundation, right? 2001, if I'm not mistaken.
It is also the year we established the foundation, but I think of it as the year that MTN...
President Mandela inaugurating it.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of rich history in MTN over the many years. And actually, it's not a very long time for a company, if you think about it, as you say. 1994 was 28 years ago, so it's not so long ago.
Today, you are one of the most successful symbols of South African soft power diplomacy as a company and within the world equally. As an empire, business empire generated in Africa, sold to the rest of the world. How have you succeeded to maintain the reputation of the company in a very challenging global environment?
No, for sure, it's a challenging and evolving global environment. As I said, we see ourselves broadly as a Pan-African company. We make 70% of our earnings outside of South Africa, and the majority of that is in the rest of the African continent. No, I mean, what's important for a company such as ours is that we remain engaged in the issues that are of most importance in the various nation states that we operate in. So part of the travels that I do, and I'm on a mission to visit also Benin and Ghana during this trip, is to really get to talk to stakeholders, understand what the stakeholders want in the way that they want to drive socioeconomic development within their markets. And then we figure out what role we can play. So we are a digital and financial inclusion company. And we've been talking to stakeholders the last 24 hours about network coverage. How can we expand our network so that we cover also people who have less means, who would not ordinarily be able to afford telecommunication service. So rural broadband coverage is actually a strategic intent of MTN. We want to make sure that nobody gets left behind. So we get to understand what the issues by talking to stakeholders, and we've met and we expressed our thanks to all the stakeholders for supporting MTN. Part of my trip here was just a trip to express thanks and gratitude to the stakeholders. So we express our thanks and we understand what is important for them to drive socioeconomic progress for the markets, and then we figure out where it is that we play. So we try and do that in every country, and we get our CEOs to really understand that, and then we put our business to work in support of that progress.
Well, like you said, MTN started its operation in Cameroon in 2001 and rapidly grew up its shell market to about 67,000 people. What is the place? How important is MTN Cameroon in the MTN portfolio and some of the developments you are almost excited about in this country?
Cameroon is the heartbeat of Africa. If you look at it in terms of where the map is, and in many respects, it represents the opportunity that we see more broadly across our markets. As you mentioned, we are in 20 markets. Cameroon is in our top 7 markets, so it's one of our biggest markets, and there's a lot of innovation that we see here. We take to other markets.
Between Francophone and Anglophone Africa.
Absolutely, it's also a bridge between Francophone and Anglophone Africa, and we operate in both those markets. So Cameroon is super important, and we think that the journey is just beginning on the digital and financial inclusion journey. We have 10.5 million subscribers. So I'm very excited about the growth prospects of Cameroon. And I like to see innovation. We'll be later today, we'll be in the markets, seeing the trade and how our agents are interacting with our customers. I love that part. So you might see me later in some media, deep in the markets, just to see how our customers are engaging our services. So Cameroon is very, very important, within the MTN. And, it's one of the first markets when MTN started expanding more broadly into Africa. One of the first markets to enter was Cameroon.
Well, we are living in a very quite challenging environment, like I said, and the context here is about COVID-19. I just wonder how COVID-19 has impacted the telecommunications sector. It's one of the least adversely affected sectors, by the way. But just quickly tell me, what has been the corporate social responsibility of MTN in facing the health challenge before we take the last question of the interview?
No, COVID-19 has disrupted lives and livelihoods all across the world, and Cameroon for sure. The role that we've taken as MTN is to show our own compassion and our own care across the markets we operate in. We were quick to provide support in zero rating services, as an example. And we also took a stance as MTN to support the African Union in its battle to secure vaccines early last year. I think we all remember early last year there was this vaccine equities issues, difficulty to get vaccines to Africa. So we were asked by the African Union vaccine acquisition task force headed by Strive Masiwa, if we could make a contribution. So at MTN, we made a contribution of $25 million.
You mean the Zimbabwean businessman?
Yes. So he was tasked by the AU to organize access for vaccines for all 54 AU countries. And they came to us to see what role we could play. And we stood
Through
up.
the Africa CDC, headed by Dr. John Kengasong.
Exactly. Dr. John Kengasong and I know he's a countryman of yours. We worked on this initiative for some time. He was
on this program last year.
Oh, okay. No. If Dr. John is listening, I know he's moving on or has moved on, but he was a good brother of mine last year. But coming back to COVID-19, we've donated vaccines across the African markets, and I'm sure, vaccines have also been, Cameroon has benefited from that. I know for sure that was one of the first batch of vaccines. So we've taken a view to support nation states, and also we've taken a view towards mandatory vaccination for our staff, because we think that's the best way to protect them. So we are of the view that if we get vaccination levels high across our markets, we'll return to some sort of new normal. And the digital infrastructure that we've seen, where we've seen usage go up, we think that is a structural shift where people are going to use their digital services a lot more than they did pre the pandemic. So yes, as you say, our industry has remained fairly resilient through COVID, but we're investing to ensure that we can also provide services much more cheaply to all our customers, so everybody has the ability to benefit from a modern connected life.
For some time now, you have been the group chairman of MTN. What are your priorities?
I'm group president and CEO. I've got a group chairman who was going to be here with me, but couldn't come. But our priorities are really framed around this idea of driving digital and financial inclusion across the African markets. So we want to build out our networks and ensure that our networks cover more and more people. We also want to make sure that those services that are sitting on our networks, whether they're about digital services or financial services, are affordable to our customers, so that they can also, create, and have more prosperous lives, and the things that they hope for can be achieved. That's at the center of the purpose of what MTN is, the digital and financial inclusion of Africans. We will invest and build more networks, drive 3G, 4G, ultimately 5G technologies. We'll bring that to Cameroon as well. We want to make sure that also our customers can also benefit from digital services that are locally developed. So there's also a local content to make sure that in the markets we're operating in, we're creating an ecosystem of local entrepreneurs, people developing digital services that they can leverage off our platform. So that's very exciting for us, looking forward.
Finally, you know the importance of leadership in any business. How is leadership perceived and conceived at MTN for the company to remain in the position it has today?
At MTN, we have values and behaviors and a culture that guides the way we operate. At the heart of it is a can-do spirit, a positivity and can-do spirit around enabling Africans to move forward. So when I think about the MTN leadership philosophy, it has an entrepreneurial can-do spirit at the core. There's a pioneering spirit. We are not challenged by difficult situations. We try and figure it all out. And there's a very healthy teamwork that's at the core of our leadership philosophy. We work together, we succeed together. If we fail, we'll fail together. We succeed more times than we're failing, which is good. So at the core of our leadership also is this vision of our wanting to be seen as a company that is delivering digital solutions for Africa's progress. That is what frames us as MTN leaders when we get up in the morning. And if we succeed in that socioeconomic project or that socioeconomic vision, everything else will come through. We'll be able to deliver to all our stakeholders, including shareholders, because the shareholder aspect is just the derivative of everything else we've done. And so we are very, very committed to be seen as a company at the heart of driving digital and financial inclusion for Africans, so that we see progress in Africa, we see progress in Cameroon, and giving our people dignity, hope, and a smile. That's what we like to think about from an MTN perspective.
I'm sure the ringtone of your phone simply says everywhere you go, MTN, right?
Everywhere we go. Everywhere we go, for sure.
Sure. The group CEO and president of the mobile telephone network, MTN, Ralph Mupita, thank you very much indeed for being guest on GlobeWatch today.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
I'm afraid that we can't shake hands because of COVID-19 restrictions.
We just do this now. There we go. There we go.